Hello there. Welcome to another episode of Talking Business with Kevin Mumphrey. One of the biggest challenges when starting a small business is the marketing and promotion of that business. It can be quite daunting in the world of Amazons, Walmarts, Targets, and such. While the internet has opened more opportunities to reach consumers all over the globe, the internet can be a bit like the Wild West, making it difficult to navigate at times. Today, I have a special guest with me, Jason Luntz, the owner of the new media agency, Your Voice. He's here to share some insight on how small businesses can leverage the internet and social media to their advantage in finding consumers. Jason has also written a book called The Media Mentorship, where he provides guidance on how to grow your business through new media strategies. So let's dive in, shall we? And learn from Jason on how to harness the power of the internet and social media. So Jason, I just want to start off by asking you, what got you interested in working in media?
Well, to tell you the truth, back in the day, I actually was into real estate. I used to flip properties and manage properties. And when the market crashed in the mid to late 2000s, I had to start over. And during that time, Twitter actually started to blow up. And I used to tweet about everything. And then I started blogging, and I had got a really good response from it. And I would just blog about everything: business, relationships, hip hop. And I had so much fun. I was like, why don't I go to school and really learn how to be a real writer? So I enrolled at Full Sail, and I got my master's degree in what's called new media journalism. And new media journalism taught me how to write with journalist integrity, but using these tools, and this is 2000, now we're like 10, 11, 12, these tools that were new, like multimedia, using social media, blogging, and even building my own website to tell these stories. And it was such a cool and such an exciting time. I mean, bro, I grew my Twitter to 30,000 followers, and that's before we even knew what a influencer was. But I was just having so much success with it that I just loved telling stories. And initially the goal was, to be a news reporter. But I realized that I could take these same talents and use them to tell businesses stories. So I approach all my clients like I approach a news story. I'm going to tell you a story. So whether I'm building you a website, whether I'm doing your public relations, whether I'm building a social media campaign for you, it's the storytelling aspect and that media training and background that I use.
Now, kind of give us a picture of when you was in school for media, what was the media landscape, at least for a business?
So at that time, we were coming out of the era where we're coming into the era where Facebook was really exploding. MySpace was definitely on the way out. Twitter was exploding, and Instagram might have just been starting. It's before Facebook owned them. But a lot of media outlets still weren't utilizing social media to broaden their reach. So we were really in a hardcore part of the 24-hour news cycle. It was at its peak, where CNN and Fox and MSNBC were really going at each other hard. And that was the main way you still were getting news. This is before apps are where they are now. Because, a lot of us get our news on our apps, our CNN, our Huffington Post alerts. This time, we still were kind of tuning into those 24-hour networks. But blogging was starting to become popular. Early days of podcasting, nowhere where it is now. So the media landscape was these new tools, these multimedia tools, and new media tools were starting to grow, but they just weren't there yet.
Now, did you kind of envision that more of for businesses or even small businesses, did you kind of see that maybe the social media, the podcasting, the internet route was more of a better way to go than traditional media?
Yeah, I could already see, because the one advantage, especially back then, because this is before you had to pay to boost on Facebook, but the fact that social media at that time was kind of a level playing field. The small, medium-sized businesses had the same advantage as large corporations, because nobody could really push money behind it yet. It really had to be interesting. It had to be dynamic. It had to catch people's attention. So I could see that if a small business was able to take advantage of that, they could have growth that had never been seen before.
Now, I saw what you do as a media strategist, and one of the things that kind of caught my eye is media training.
Yes.
And I want to know, in 2023, what does media training looks like?
2023, the one thing that we're really about is being transparent. So now where we're at with social media, obviously it's a driving force in all our lives. There's so many people, I don't have the exact numbers, but a lot of people, the first thing they do when they wake up is they check their social media.
Yeah.
They're going right on the gram, Facebook, or TikTok to see what they might have missed. So right now, people are looking for the truth behind brands and the way they spend money. So when people spend money now, they want you to know, hey, I shop here. I bought this because it's a Black-owned business, because it's a woman-owned business, because it's a veteran-owned business. So the first thing with media training now is, please don't be afraid to tell your story. We find so many people that are always like, I just want it to be about the product. I want the hamburgers I cook to talk for themselves, or the candles that I make, or, whatever the business they're into. But the reality is, the only thing that can separate you from these large businesses that are doing the same thing you do is you. So the media training is, we start off with, please tell your story, because your story is what's going to attract that new customer, that new client.
Now, in today's media landscape, I read in your book that you said that traditional media still has power.
Yes.
Now, for someone who's probably like in their 20s, may say that's kind of ridiculous. So, like, what do you see as, how does traditional media still have power?
Well, I know that obviously, younger people, younger millennials and Gen Zs, yes, they're not watching regular television, right? And they're not reading newspapers. But all these traditional media outlets are now utilizing social media and new media to get their point across. So yeah, they may not sit and watch an hour of MSNBC, but when you go on YouTube, you're getting them 8-minute clips, right? You're getting them 5-minute clips. So it's still reaching out to you. So you still want to say, hey, how do I get on this news program? How do I get in this newspaper? Every newspaper in the country is going to do a digital version as well. So when you're approaching them, you might be like, hey, none of my customers are reading the paper, but they are going online. And that gives you the ability to share it. And then there is still, baby boomers is still the largest generation. And there's still a lot of people 60 plus that read newspapers and watch regular television. And yes, millennials is a generation that's almost as large, if not larger, but the baby boomer has the buying power. So it is going to change, and it's changing rapidly. But right now, media is getting most of its money still from large corporations that are trying to advertise to people that can spend money, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned newspapers, which, I mean, like I said, it's definitely gone to the decline in the last at least 10 years.
Oh, yes.
So, like, for a small business that wants to put themselves out there, like, how could they utilize the newspapers?
Well, there's a couple advantages of going after the newspaper first. When you're trying to get to that larger media, that let's say you're in tech, you have a new app, and you want to get in Wired Magazine. Before Wired Magazine is really going to even waste time on you, they are going to try to see who else has covered you. That's where the newspaper comes in, especially your local newspaper that's niche to your community or your area, because they always need content. So if you can get an article in the Tennessee Tribune to start off with, right, which is a Black-owned newspaper here in Nashville, which has a very strong presence in the African-American community, then you may be able to get in the Tennessean or the Scene, which are larger, more general publications, right? Then with those, now you might be able to present yourself to a more regional and then national publication. So I think the newspaper is still a great way to start, to show that there is true interest in the story you're telling for your business.
So you use the newspaper as almost kind of to lay your groundwork on your business.
Yeah, the groundwork of showing proof that there are people interested. Because again, every level of media, from the small local newspaper to the national magazine that has, 1 million followers on their website, everybody is still, their businesses too, right? So they're trying to get advertisement. They're trying to get ads. So if the small newspaper thinks you're a good story and it helped them get more ads revenue, then the medium-sized publication will feel that way to the large one. In the end, people have to be interested in the story you're telling. And Kev, that's why we always say, look, it's cool that you've got the new thing that you're selling, but it's the story that's going to attract the viewers and the readership, right? Because look at Nashville, there's hundreds and hundreds of new restaurants, right? So
yes,
and some are good, some aren't. But what's going to make me as a journalist want to cover? I can't cover every new restaurant. There's only so much time in a day. But if you come with me with a great story, like hey, let's say you were a juvenile delinquent and then you went into a program that taught you how to cook. Now you're a chef and you open a restaurant and you hire other young people to get them off the street, right? To work in your restaurant. That's a story. That's something that that's more important than if you make a great hamburger. Like
That's a news story.
That's a news story, yes. And that's what the book is about, explaining, as you read it, getting that story out and really being intentional about that.
Now, what made you actually want to write this book?
Well, the truth is, at my company, Your Voice, we do a variety of things. We do web design, we do email marketing, social media consulting, we do graphic design, but we also do some offline marketing and services. And a big part of that is public and media relations. And public and media relations is basically, we want to be that voice for you to get that media coverage you're looking for. And that's from press releases, using our connections, helping you host events that press would want to come to. But a lot of small businesses, they're bootstrapping, they're trying their best, and they can't always afford our services. Now, we try to make our stuff very affordable. One of our missions is to give small businesses the same tools that large ones do. But, to keep it real, we still got to keep the lights on. And I got a lot of people to pay. So I can only budget as much as I can. So then I was like, well, what's the way I can help these small businesses? Most small businesses are bootstrapping anyway, and they're out there doing a lot of their own work. So if they can read this book, get some tips, they can actually read this book, follow the guidelines, and get that media coverage they want. It'd be easier, obviously, to hire me or a company like me. But when you're a small business, you got to do what you got to do. So you may not be able to afford the price of a press release, but you can drop $15 on the ebook.
Someone may say, like, you're basically giving them, the game in which you play.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you feel like, or do you even worry about, like, we're putting out this book that someone, may use it, do it for themselves? Maybe a lot of people will, and may not use your service.
Well, the one thing I realized, and I learned this a long time ago, especially with clients and I'll give you a good example. If you and me opened up a cupcake spot, right, and everyone loves our velvet cupcakes, a lot of people be like, well, keep that, recipe a secret. Nah, man, I'm gonna put that on Facebook. This is the ingredients to our cupcake. And guess what? When you go home and try to make it, one, you're gonna be like, golly, it's a lot of work. Two, it ain't gonna taste as good as ours, because this is what we do. So in the end, you can give away some of your trade secrets to let people know you're serious about it. They can try their best. They may have okay results, but as soon as they can afford it to pay you to do it, they're probably gonna pay you.
They can't do it your way. They don't have your style.
Yeah, now they can have success with it. But eventually, as their business grows, they could be like, wow, we got on Talk of the Town in Nashville. We got on a couple newspapers on our own. But every time they release something or a new story, it's going to be hard for them to keep stopping and doing it again on their own, because they need to be focusing on their business. So this is a great way to introduce yourself. What we're hoping is you get a few articles written about you, you get more business, you make more money, then you can afford someone like me.
And then at that point, you're too busy to be focusing on that. You can afford someone else to focus on that type of stuff.
Yes. But in the beginning, look, if you got to write your own press release, right? In the beginning, if you got to go on Squarespace and build your own website, whatever you got to do in the beginning. But eventually, you're going to want to hire a web designer to build that site out. Eventually, you're going to hire a marketing firm to do your social media. But in the beginning, the more tips we can do to help you grow, the better it is.
Now, you mentioned about press release. Now, I mean, most people have heard about what a press release is, but probably haven't seen one.
Yeah.
So what's the benefit of a press release?
So a press release, think of it as an article that was written specifically for you. So rather than a news article, which is written and basically, unless it has an editorial spin or commentary, normally it's going to just be the facts about you. And they'll try to use a couple quotes to try to really draw in a bigger picture of the story. But that's what news is. This is what it is. This is a business, what they do. In your press release, the article's written about you and it's pitching you to other journalists. So the point of it is, before you call a journalist, they want to have something they can read. Now they have an understanding. So then when you call them or contact them, they've already got an idea in their head of what it is that you're pitching. So it could be the opening of a new business. It could be a new product. It could be a great discount sale. It could be something like it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month and your mother passed away from it, so you're doing a discount, and part of the proceeds is going to breast cancer awareness, right? That's a
Yeah.
story. But just calling someone and saying, hey, I got a story because I'm doing breast cancer, that's not enough. The press release writes that in an article form, so when a journalist reads it, he's like, okay, I got an idea of what this is.
Now, do you normally send those press release like just to like news stations, radio stations? Do you send those to, I don't know, bloggers or even podcasters as well?
Man, that's a great question. And in fact, I was thinking about it after I released. I was like, I want to do a volume 2 because media changes so quickly. Like the day before I published the book is when I mean, a couple days before I was almost done is when Twitter changed its name to X. So I had to go back and everywhere where Twitter was, I had to put in parentheses, X, formerly known as Twitter. So even that, I was like, oh, I didn't really talk enough about blogging and podcasts. I was like, I got to put that in volume 2. But to answer your question, yeah, I would send a press release to podcasters, to bloggers, to online newspapers that may seem small, anything of that nature. The press release is good for. Now, with traditional media, you have what are called like assignment desks, assignment editors. So you can send your press release to, let's say, the local affiliate for Fox News or ABC News. You can email it to the journalist you want to cover you, but you also want to CC the desk, the assignment desk, and the producers. So if you can get that information, because the assignment desk is the one that's really going to make that final call. So yeah, you want to send it out to anyone in media, radio stations, whether it's small or big. I say any media that covers you is good media.
Now, how would you go about, let's say, when you're either wanting to focus your product on traditional media or more social media, online? Like, how would you kind of navigate that?
Well, I think that social media should be always your focus because, as I say in the book, social media can actually get you more press. Following the right journalists for your social media is helpful, but also giving information out because when people are writing news articles and let's say you're a realtor and you give great information and a journalist is doing an article on the real estate market right now, right? And you're always giving these great tips. They might come to you and be like, hey, can I get a quote from you about where this market is at? Now, if you give them that quote, when you're ready for an article down the road, they're going to remember that. So social media helps with that, helps you grow in an authority in your space. People love to get information from you. So when they think about buying that thing that you always talk about, you'll be first on their mind. I still think traditional media has great value because normally you're not paying for traditional media. So people psychologically, when they see it, they're like, okay, this must be important because they know that majority of newspapers or TV shows didn't pay you. It's called earned media. You earn that media. So you want to have a focus on that, but that social media, that's so important nowadays.
Now, because you have to always kind of keep an eye on the new trends or the comings and goings of certain media. What do you think is the future of traditional media? Like, let's say within the next decade per se. Do you think it'll still have the power it's currently at?
Yeah, I think that as time moves on, social media, it's gonna change. I mean, the way that AI is being used now, and realistically, so many people are using, ChatGPT and others to create their actual captions and come up with their ideas. So there's gonna have to be a change on how we use it because how much of it's authentic. I think there's going to have to be some social media that's developed that's really based on how authentic it is. Because right now, there's so much you can do using these tools. How much of it really is you? And people are going to want to see more and more reality with their social media. But that's why people love stories and reels. They like to see that behind the scenes stuff. And the grittier it looks, I think that's where we're also going. Things that look very nice and clean are really good. A YouTube video, if you were to do a YouTube video explaining how to become a podcaster, that should be pristine, right? And look great, edited nice. But if you just want to do something real quick that shows the reality, no editing, just like, and put it up there. So I think the trend we're going to see is long form is going to look amazing, but I think short form, the more real it looks, the better people will respond to it.
Now, as you brought up authenticity, which I thought was interesting that you mentioned in your book, that let's see how I'm going to word this actually. No, I don't know my question now. How do you be, because with social media, like Instagram, for instance, you got your filters, they want to make themselves look as clean and pristine as possible.
Yeah.
Or even like when they show their products, it almost looks too perfect.
Yeah.
So it kind of elaborate like on the value of being authentic on social media.
Well, I think that utilizing your social media and realizing where you're posting. So a timeline, obviously, something that's going to always sit there, like it does need to look as clean as possible. Your timeline should be the perfect picture of that sandwich you made, or perfect, if you sell candles. I always love using candles because so many people I know sell those now. But like
Mhm.
that perfect candle with the wick and the flame, like that needs to look great on your timeline, something I'm scrolling through. But that authentic part really comes in those stories and those reels where people want to see, they want to see the reality, how you made that candle, or you're in a meeting and they want to see some of the struggle too, because that's what makes people get excited about small businesses. Because we can all go to Walmart and buy a candle and not care who it's from, right? But if it's our homegirl or a homeboy on Facebook, right? A lot of times, like I need to see what's going on back there, and then I get excited about it. So I think that you got to be authentic, but depending on where you're posting, that visual needs to be cleaner depending on where it's at.
Now, would you say for someone starting a business, the top social media platforms to be on, would you say it would, because I would obviously think Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Facebook may not have the, I guess, appeal it once had, but
Yeah,
it's still widely usable. Twitter or X or wherever we're calling it, I'm not really sure where that is at this
I
point.
know that's a tough one.
So, which platforms would you say are the most effective form of social media?
I would say right now the top three big dogs still Facebook, Instagram, TikTok is probably the biggest. I think it's also looking at who your clientele is. I think Instagram is always good right there in the middle because you got Gen Zs that love it, you got baby boomers that love it. If your audience is a little older, Gen X boomers, older geriatric millennials, they call them, almost 40, you
Yeah.
still get a lot on Facebook with them. If you're going Gen Z, younger millennials, 30 under, 25 under, TikTok is it's undoubtable. You got to be on TikTok. But yeah, really looking at still those three are pretty powerful. LinkedIn though is blowing up. If you're B2B, LinkedIn is really having a very strong presence. I noticed the last year or so, but the last 2 quarters especially, I'm seeing like so much on LinkedIn. So if you're B2B, I think LinkedIn is really powerful as well. Those four. But yeah, X is tough. Snapchat, I just feel like that should just be for you personally at this point. Um, and the rest of them, there's not really too many that are really hitting like they used to.
Now you mentioned LinkedIn, which I necessarily didn't think about. One, could you kind of explain what a B2B is, and what is it about
Okay.
LinkedIn that is probably is more effective for a business?
Well, B2B, it means business to business as opposed to B2C, which is business to consumer. So when you're B2B, like your voice is B2B. Majority of our business, we build websites for our businesses, so we work with other businesses, we're B2B. And LinkedIn, I really think it's because if you go on there now, they made it more user-friendly and they kind of made it pop a little bit, kind of like Facebook. They got lives on it now, the hashtags, you can tag people, upload your photos. The timeline looks very similar to Facebook to me. And I think that is what really pushed them over the edge. I think if I think about it 2, 3, 4 years ago, LinkedIn it was just kind of boring when you looked at it and you didn't really know
Yeah,
what you were doing on it.
you
Yeah.
just kind of had it to have it.
Yeah, yeah. And now it gives you and it's giving you the great alerts, like the people that you follow, and it's telling you everybody's congratulating somebody. You're like, oh, let me jump on there. And then you're like, oh, wow, they just did a TEDx talk or they just released a new book. That's pretty exciting.
So now you mentioned the B2B and the B2C. Now, what for a company, what would you or a startup? What kind of elements would deciding going to a B2B, or should they decide to go straight to consumer?
I think that when you're looking at your service, is it something that the general public needs, or is it something that will help other businesses grow? So like when you think about a lot of people are into like the weight loss thing, right? Um, if you're a weight loss guru and you sell products like shakes or the body wraps, or you even train people, that's going to be probably majority B2C, because that's something that the average person could jump on. And then as that grows and you have proof of concept, you can shift the gears to B2B and be like, all right, we do so good with this. Maybe, the new Amazon that opened up with 1,000 employees, maybe we can give them some kind of deal if they buy, include us in their benefit package or their wellness package. But initially, depending on what you do, you can have that focus on, is this something consumers need, like general public, or is it something that other businesses need? Like if you start flipping cars or you buy a little car lot, yeah, you're going to try to get the average person to buy your cars. But if all of a sudden you got enough money, you're opening car lots everywhere, you might be like, you know what, we can offer fleets to other businesses. And then some businesses are just for B2B. If you're dealing with steel, I think only another business is going to buy that, or lumber, you know what I'm saying? Like that, that are major commodities are going to be focused on B2B.
Now, we were talking about Twitter X. I'll just call it that for this.
Twitter X, I like that. I'm going to start calling it that.
I'm just going to put them both together. Now, because it's kind of in a state of flux, was there a point in which Twitter X was beneficial for business, and also Threads? Do you see that kind of taking place, being what Twitter X was?
Yes. So that's interesting too, because I would love to even ask someone else, if you remember when Threads first dropped, right? It was like such a great excitement about it.
Oh yeah.
All of a sudden I haven't heard anything about it lately. So it has the ability, because it's Facebook, Instagram owned, Meta owns it, and the Instagram part. But on the flip side, it's so much like X. I don't know if it's really like popping like that. But the more decisions that X makes, and the more that it seems to lean to this conservative, right-leaning, Threads might be able to jump on that and take advantage of it. It's still so new. I'm just not sure. I've tried it. I haven't really got excited about it yet, but it does have. If it keeps going, it could take advantage of that lane, because I do know a lot of people leaving X, Twitter. What would we say? Twitter X.
Twitter X.
Yeah, I know a lot of people leaving Twitter X like daily. That's like a big thing. So Threads can, if they do it right, they could jump on it.
Now, I'm someone that's on Threads, and it really feels like an uncooked product.
Okay.
Like it's in the stove. Like they're doing stuff to it. And yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, it was a great excitement on it. I loved it for a week because it seemed like it had everything that I liked about Twitter X without the toxicity and without the little crazy conversations. You still, I mean, you get a little bit of the conversations now, but it doesn't feel as bad as Twitter X, where to me, when I go on there, it felt like everybody's thoughts that I really didn't need to hear.
Everyone,
and people complaining. So it just would be a little too much. Because I mean, I still have my Twitter X profile, but it's just there to really be there.
Yeah, and you know what I've also been wondering too, like with our websites, we always put like the social media icons on the footer. You have the LinkedIn, the Twitter, but now I'm like, does that mean we got to go back to every website and put an X there now instead of a Twitter?
Honestly, that X logo looks like a porno logo. So
I don't understand.
I wouldn't. So when it showed up on my phone, I'm like, I know I didn't download this. Like I thought I got hacked. So
I know you're like,
I was a little nervous because I almost deleted it because I was like, oh no, my phone's messed up. And I had just got my new phone when this happened too. I was like, nah, something going wrong. And but luckily, I saw something saying that the change was happening.
Yeah. It definitely was interesting. And have you tried the other one with Spills?
I've honestly recently heard of. I haven't tried it yet.
Okay, so Spills is Black owned. I think a couple of Black brothers that got fired from Twitter when they went through their first sweep started. Yeah. So it's kind of like a Twitter thing, but it's more about you like post memes and then you comment on them. But it's same way you said, like it feels uncooked, like it's not really finalized all the way. So I tried a little bit, but it didn't really grab me yet.
Now, do you think Spills could be kind of a spot for Black-owned businesses?
Yeah, I mean, if they can get it together tighter, and it got to be a little more user friendly, because right now, even me, and I've been working with social media for over a decade, it's still like I'm like, what am I? How am I following people? It's still trying to figure it out. That's the tough part. But if they do, because Black Twitter is a big reason why Twitter grew, especially in the last 5 years.
Yes.
And if Black people are leaving Twitter X, then somebody got to grab them up, because we got a lot to say out here.
Absolutely. Now, I wanted to get into AI because, especially in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
last few months, it has been like a topic of conversation for a lot of industries. A lot of people are afraid it's going to take their jobs. Hollywood is one of the reasons Hollywood is even on strike.
Yes.
But you don't seem to have a fear of AI. So why doesn't AI is a fear for you?
Well, I think that AI and it is another form of technology. There were people that when the television first came out, they're like, I'm gonna see how far this radio thing will take me. And they was like, I'm not messing with TV. I mean, it's just a modern evolution of how our technology is. Now, I do think we do have to have certain ability to understand when is it AI driven. I do rather would have people come up with creativity when it comes to my entertainment. But as a tool, I think AI, especially ChatGPT, is very helpful, and it actually can help us get a lot of our ideas together. Because even with me, I'm a writer, right? Master's degree in journalism. I think I'm pretty good at creating content, but when I want to get ideas together, ChatGPT is able to help me. I can ask it a couple questions. It can outline stuff for me, and then I can clear my mind, and I can really focus on being creative. And that's what I really like about it. I don't think you should just go in there and say, hey, write a press release for me. That, to me, and you can tell when you read that, it's not going to sound like a human. But if you say, hey, I own this kind of business and I want to promote this, can you give me an outline of what I should think about as I write this press release? And it says, here are 10 things that I think readers would be interested in. I don't see anything wrong with that. Helping you get your ideas together, I don't see that as a problem personally.
Now, let's say someone is starting, I mean, it's natural. Let's say a restaurant.
Yeah.
How can you think a startup restaurant could use AI for their benefit?
So I think that one way they could do is they could say, oh, here's a great way. Let's say that they have a great recipe, but their grandmother taught them. And a grandma cooked. She never says a tablespoon, a teaspoon.
She feels it out.
She fills out a pinch. We do a pinch of cayenne. We do, a dash of this, right? Now you could write that to chat and be like, my grandma's world famous mac and cheese. And these are the ingredients she did in. It tasted like this. She said a dash of that. It could finite that and actually write that out for you as a real recipe. It'll be able to figure that out. And then you could try that recipe, cook it, and if it tastes like your grandma's, then you somewhere. But you trying to figure that out, which you can do if you're a professional cook, that could take a long time. But if you just type that out to chat comes back and it sounds like, chat will be like, it sounds like to me, you need a tablespoon of this, you need a cup of milk, you need this amount of cheese, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you try that recipe and it tastes like what you've been doing in your mind. That's an advantage right there. And also, you can come up with some great marketing ideas. You can say, hey, I'm a new restaurant on Buchanan in North Nashville, which is a historical Black neighborhood. We're doing soul food. We want to give props to the neighborhood, but we also want to give props to New Nashville. Give it that kind of information. This is my logo. What's some ideas you think I could promote it? And then it could list those out for you. Now, you still got to get out and do the work. Obviously, chat can't make the flyer for you and chat can't knock on doors for you, but it can give you an outline.
Now, for someone who's maybe afraid of using AI for a business or even personal, what would you tell them?
I would say, look, I know that we all saw Terminator growing up, but it's not Skynet. It's not Skynet. I mean, it does have parameters. It's not connected directly to the internet, at this time. But to me, it's another tool. And those same people that are scared of AI were scared of posting a picture of what they ate 5 years ago. 5 years ago, people would be like, I'm so tired of seeing people's pizza and tacos on my Facebook. Now those same people are doing it. So naturally, some of us are early adapters, right?
Yeah.
Majority of us are going to be somewhere there in the middle. And then you got some people it takes a long time. You know, they lag behind before they get on technology. But everyone got to do what they feel comfortable with. I would never try to talk anyone to using AI, but I do think if you use it properly, it can help your business, and it can help with even daily tasks. I mean, a daily task like this: it's raining outside. I got 2 kids. I need some indoor activities. Chat will come up with some indoor activities for you. Now you can spend more time doing the activities than having to think about it.
That's actually a good one for the parents out there, because
That was a great, yeah. And if you explain more about your child, one is 5, one is 7, one loves Star Wars, one loves Marvel comics, whatever it is, it can give you more info. Now, if you don't feel comfortable giving a lot of info about your family, I respect that. But you can still ask the generic questions too.
now in the book, I thought it was interesting that you used case studies.
Yeah.
One that was rather interesting to me was Beyonce that you use.
Yes.
So why particularly her album release? Like, why particularly that one?
Well, I just remember the very first time it happened, it was like, even if you weren't part of the Beehive or like a big Beyonce fan, that first time she dropped the album overnight, like that was like unthinkable. I never even heard it. You know, we always bought albums on Tuesdays before streaming. You know, and
Yeah.
you knew, and you used to know, like, oh, Nas' new album is dropping in 3 weeks, like the way a movie is. You know when a new movie's coming out, right?
Yeah.
But even imagine if a movie did. What if Star Wars, a mega like Star Wars, just dropped out a whole movie on Luke Skywalker that tonight, and none of us even knew about it? We would go crazy. So I was just thinking about how the way that Beyonce approaches dropping stuff without warning you. Even the way she did the Lemonade, you know, long form video. I mean, she just does so much that continues to grow her brand. And the interesting thing is, big brands, Beyonce's a huge brand, but big brands never stop coming at you with new ideas. I was thinking the other day about McDonald's. Like, we all know McDonald's. McDonald's has served billions and billions of people, right? But
Yeah.
McDonald's still drops radio commercials, TV commercials, ads in magazines, billboards, pop up on websites, right? And they're always still trying new food and new ideas. You know what I'm saying? The way they're doing their app. Yeah, I don't even like junk food like that, but that McDonald's app kind of brought me back to McDonald's a little bit. I'm like, oh, this is very easy. Like, they're innovative. And that's why I use Beyonce, because her ideas, her way she markets her music is very innovative.
Now, yeah, I do remember when it came out of nowhere, and the kind of ranging thought that I remember people having is only Beyonce could do something like this and it worked out.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember herself, but I remember it did quite well. Now, do you think, because you brought up movie theaters, which got me to wondering, do you think a big movie could do a layout such as that and still be effective?
You know, it might be tough to do it in a movie theater, but they can definitely do it on a streaming, you know, because think about even the idea of streaming changed because of COVID. Now, they didn't do the out of nowhere, but like, I remember when Wonder Woman 1984, I think that was like the first major movie, because movie theaters were closed basically, that they just went straight to HBO Max. And that was like a big deal. Now, some people didn't like the movie as much, but they still had a great amount of stream. And a lot of people went out and ran and got it. Or Disney, when there was no movie theaters, they had a streaming network, Disney Plus, but they charged for the very first time for not Scarlet Witch, the woman that died, and the one that always works with Hawkeye.
There's so many of them. I keep
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it would come to me, but she Black Widow.
Oh, okay. I
When
got
Black
you.
Widow dropped, they were like, look, even if you already pay your $12 a month, this Black Widow is $29.99. But they made crazy money off it because it was just like a whole new idea. So yeah, a movie theater might be tough, but if they just dropped a banging movie and no one knew it was out and it just dropped, I mean, I think that it would be pretty large.
Now, another case study you used was Nike, as far as them siding with Colin Kaepernick, which was controversial at the time.
Yeah.
But it seemed to have worked out for them. Now, why do you think that it worked out for Nike?
Well, I think that we live in a time, and it probably started in that era we were talking about earlier, when social media was growing and 24 news cycle was there. But if you notice those last 10, 12 years, you're either conservative or you're liberal, right? You got to pick a size. When we were growing up, you might be, pro-choice, but you might also be pro-death penalty. You could be conservative and liberal. Now you got to pick one or the other. And so some companies are putting their flag in the ground. They're like, look, this is who we're going to run with. And I thought that Nike was brilliant because the truth is the NFL and most majority sports, except maybe hockey and soccer, majority of the athletes are African-American or Latino, people of color, right? Yeah. So I think that Nike's like, look, these athletes are Black. This issue is important to people. A lot of people that buy Nikes are Black or into hip hop or into justice. And I thought that it taking a stance and saying, look, we're going to roll with who our customers are, I think it's smart. Now you see the opposite. Bud Light, had a trans individual as a spokesperson, and since so many people that drink Bud Light, they're not quote unquote woke or into that kind of thing. There was some backlash on it. But me as a liberal person, I appreciate that they did it, but was it the best move? You can take these grand gestures, but you also have to know who your customers are. Unless you are like, look, we're good. Anheuser-Busch has unlimited amount of products and beers, right? Some beers that people don't even know they own, like Corona and Stella, right? So they still don't get paid, so they can take those shots. But I do think that if you know your core audience and this is where they're at, go ahead and be authentic and go ahead and support what you want to support. Because people spend money again. There's certain stores I don't spend money at because I know who they support politically. And there's certain stores I do spend money at because of who they support. So I say, if you're not afraid of backlash, go for it.
Now, there's a whole difference in how like Nike, for instance, did with Michael Jordan compared to like now. Whereas ideally before, you didn't stick your flag down on anything because you're trying to get as many people as possible. Do you feel like heightened tensions or political climate is forcing companies to kind of have to stamp their flag in, or in ways it benefits a company?
It's a great question. I was thinking about it the other day because I saw that movie. I don't know if you saw it, Air, that Ben Affleck directed, starring him and Matt.
Haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's really good. The story about how they were able to beat out the big brands at the time, Adidas and Puma and Converse, to get Michael Jordan. But a lot of what was attractive was Michael's story and family. But it was a different time. The 80s, you didn't really put that out there. But I do think, to answer your question, we are at a point now that by not taking a stance, you're also not being authentic, because it's obvious that so many of us have a stance now. And just running from it all the time, I don't think is going to be is always the best move. Now, being forceful about it might not be. I don't think every single thing you sell should be like, oh, this is going to save the SEALs, or we're for this, or we're against that, right? That can be a lot as well, because sometimes we just want to buy some stuff. Yeah. But I think that political climate has changed, especially when it comes to athletes and entertainers, and particularly if they're Black, because being Black and being famous, there's so much more that comes with it. Your opinions matter. And if a Black athlete says something that majority of us, or a Black entertainer like Kanye, right? Yeah. It's like when you say certain things, you don't just represent yourself, you represent the race, which isn't fair, but it's true.
Now, do you feel like certain brands that they can do this because they're maybe too big to fail?
Yeah, and I mean, it is a lot easier for Nike to say, we're going to do this and we're going to support this man who's taking a stance against police brutality and racism in America, because look, we worth billions and you can't stop us, right? So, but some big businesses like Papa John's, for example, the owner really went hard on the Trump level and it backfired, and he no longer has any power in the company. They had to really shift away from that. They had to hire a Black person like Shaquille O'Neal to be like, nah, we do like Black people. You know what I'm saying? And
The
So you
biggest
can be
black person
big.
they can find.
Yeah. Well, Shaquille O'Neal, one thing about him, he gonna push a product.
Oh yeah,
He don't got no
definitely.
problem, which isn't nothing wrong with it, just keeping it real. But which is funny. But yeah, sometimes you can think that you're big, but you know, you had the Chick-fil-A. Everyone loves Chick-fil-A, right? But they
Yeah.
went real hard on like an anti-gay stance. And there was a moment where people wouldn't, they had to like really go away from that. So you can be too big to fail, but what are you leaning into? Because if you're going to lean into something that's conservative, a lot of younger people are not going to, even if they're conservative politically, socially, they're gonna have issues with that. Because left leaning is always about progress. So if you're not progressing, you might as well just leave it alone and say, look, we don't discuss that.
Now, do you feel like a startup company could kind of stamp their flag on, or could make that their stance kind of their brand per se? Like, would that benefit them, or would it not?
Yeah, I think that as long as it's authentic, it's a part of your story. I mean, when you watch, if you ever watch Shark Tank?
Yeah.
So when you watch Shark Tank, a lot of those brands that are doing well, they always take like the Tom shoe model. You remember Tom's, every shoe you buy, they give a shoe to an underdeveloped country.
Yeah.
So a lot of those people that go on there that are doing well already, they have taken a stance. Like they're like, we developed this, idea. There were toothpicks, but the toothpicks killed the turtles. So we came up with a purple version a paper version, right? Or whatever it is. And they're taking a stance on climate change. They're taking a stance on supporting underdeveloped, African countries. They're taking a stance. So if you start off like that and it's a part of your story and you mean it, I think that it can be powerful. And I think sometimes it's even better than that, doing that instead of a nonprofit. I love nonprofits, but it can be oversaturated sometimes, right? Sometimes there's already a nonprofit doing that. And you're better off just volunteering or starting your company with a ethical idea and giving some of your proceeds to that nonprofit. But when you come out with 12 nonprofits all trying to help the SEALs, and I want to help the SEALs, who am I giving the money to? You know what I'm saying? So I think that naturally I think this is a time right now you can start your business with a flag down on an important issue for yourself, because you can't sell to everybody anyway. Businesses are more and more niche. Back in the day, Seth Godin, who's a great marketer, said it used to be average products for average people. It was just one kind of one thing. But nowadays, because of the internet, you can find your tribe and you can niche out more and more. So if that ethical thing is important to you, trust me, there's people out there it's important to them as well, and they'll support your business just because of that.
Now, you mentioned a niche audience, and like I said, there was at one point where when you tried to put out a product, you tried to get as many people as you can find, no matter what race, nationality, whatever. But now it seems like there's a growing trend of people kind of finding their audience that they want and going straight for that. Now, would
Yep.
you say social media is a part of that, or just the times we live in?
Yeah, I think social media really drives that because there was a time where you couldn't find like-minded people that easy. There's always people, they talk about, I can't wait to move out of this town because no one here likes what I like. I remember growing up, and it wasn't a lot of kids in my, it wasn't a lot of Black kids in my neighborhood that loved Star Wars, right? That was hard to find. Now, because of the internet, I found out there's lots of people of all races and nationalities that love Star Wars, and we can communicate with each other about our love for this particular, entertainment. And it's the same thing with your products. Before, you did have to try to mass market everything and make it as regular as possible. And I'll give you another example. You see this even with something as boring as soap, dish detergent. It used to be, or washing your clothes. Dish laundry used to be 1 cent. It was Dawn, Blue Dawn, right? Now you got tropical and Bahama, pineapple scented and mint, right? You got all these different versions of it because now you have the ability to find the person that wants that particular kind. But when you only had, 3 networks on TV, a couple newspapers in your town, and 5 radio stations, when you were advertising, you had to try to get as much people as possible. So you just made the most normal thing you could. And now, because of social media, you can find people that like the thing that you're selling, regardless of how different or weird it is. Because if you like it, someone else loves it.
Now, do you fear for what you do exactly that we may have like eventually oversaturated with social media? There's just so many different forms of social media that it kind of makes it harder for a business to kind of find their audience.
Man, I think that, yeah, social media, there's an oversaturation. I mean, personally, I'm trying not to be that guy that just goes on social media when I wake up anymore. When I'm out with my friends or family at dinner, I'm really trying to like take this thing and put it down, right? And focus on the moment. Like uh Louis C.K. had a funny joke. He was like, he was at his daughter's recital, and he's like, and everybody is like recording their kid like this, right? And
Oh
then
yeah.
he's like, you know, the HD in real life is amazing. The clarity of this is amazing. And it's like people are so obsessed with, let me record this now so I can post it on social. So sometimes, yeah, there is an oversaturation. Now, I don't want to ever get into old man and be like, old man yells at sky. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I'm upset about things being different. I understand why people want to share. And now you got a whole generation that, you know, social media has been around since they was born, or like they came into consciousness. So it's going to play a part in their lives, but you got to still have an ability to want to actually enjoy what's happening. The worst things like going to like a club or going to a bar and everyone's on their phone. And
Oh
it's like,
yeah, yeah. I've heard conversations. Now, I haven't been in the clubs in a long time, but
well, yeah, you're
uh,
not, but even like, you know, a little day party, a barbecue, a get together at a friend's house. Sometimes you gotta be like, all right, y'all, yo, what we gonna do here? We gonna just all be on our phones, or we gonna actually have a conversation? So social media, that is an issue, and it's something that we have to figure out as a society. And hopefully we'll come to grips with how to use that. But on the rise, though, you are going to see more and more activities that are more physically active, like escape rooms, paintballing, right? You start seeing more and more people doing stuff like that, because when they do spend time, they want to do things that are active and off their phones. So I think that's actually something that people, business owners, need to keep looking at, is how can I make the experience more interactive of what I'm offering, and that can get people off social media and pay attention to what they're doing.
now you say you kind of curate events too for companies and such.
Yeah,
So how do now you know when you have these events, they're going to have their phones out, they're
yeah.
going to be tagging, which obviously works for you, but you also want to create an authentic experience. So how do you navigate the two?
So one, if you're working, whoever the client I'm working with, we have to, it goes back to all this. We need you to be a part of this. We need you to talk and participate, walk around, shake hands, and kiss babies, you know, because one, I don't do what you do. I can help you expand on it and get people here, but I don't do that thing. So I can only do so much. So the owners, the staff, the people involved, they gotta be excited, and they gotta speak to people. And now they can't be afraid, because if they're kind of shy, it's going to be easy for them to, at the event, to just be like this, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I'm also a big fan of, and it's hard, but I think that like restaurants and coffee shops and things of that, where it's customer facing, the fact that a waiter can just be on their phone, to me, is kind of weird, you know. Like, I shouldn't be afraid to be like, can I get some more ketchup? Because you on your phone. So with events, the same thing. Like, you got to get the people working that event, they got to be active and excited, and that will get people excited about the event. But you know, you do want some social media because you want more and more people to know about it. But I'll tell you something cool. I'm glad you said this. And I remember I got this idea. So when I do speaking engagements, a lot of times I'll be like, look, before I start, I want all y'all to take a couple pictures of me, right? So that you
Yeah.
can keep your phone down the rest of the time. So I'll be like, this is me thinking, this is me pointing at the
Oh,
audience. You know what I'm saying? This is me laughing. All right, now let's get to it. But I actually got that from Jill Scott. I saw her downtown at Ascend once a few years ago. And she did that. She said, look, she basically like, I'm not gonna be one of those, you gotta hide your phone the whole night, but I prefer you to watch the show. So look, I'm gonna do about 10 poses. Everyone take the picture. You can tweet that later, and then let's focus on the show. And she did it, and everybody laughed. It was a great icebreaker, and it was a great night. So sometimes doing fun stuff like that, just like, look, let's get these pictures out the way, and then let's get to why we're here.
That's actually a great idea.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned it's an icebreaker and it gives people what the pictures they want. Now,
Yeah.
have you ever had clients that are like the shy type? Have you ever had shy clients?
Oh man, everyone's shy. Like I said, everyone's always like, um, I want the I want the product to speak for itself, right? I want the service to speak for itself. And I respect that. You do want to have the best product that you're selling, but you got to kind of shake off of that. And a lot of people are introverted. So my thing is share what you can share, and then you got to protect yourself as well. See, I'm an extroverted person, so I get more energy dealing with people. Some people are introverted and it's not as important to them. I just try to let them know that everybody has that fear, even an introverted person like me. Even before I get on the podcast with you right now, and it's my second one today, I still was a little nervous. Every time I do a speaking engagement, I'm still nervous, but that's what the beauty of it is, because nobody really wants to see anybody fail. Nobody's listening to this hoping I mess up my words or you ask a question that doesn't make sense. They want us to win. So I just tell people, I know you're shy, but most people are here to support you. You got a couple haters out there, but look, we don't
Yeah.
spend time on them. That's what I always say. We're not going to waste our time, because you can post something on social, get 100 comments, everyone says how dope it was. That one person is like, you're whack, is the one you
Yeah.
focus on the whole time. Like,
And it's hard not to notice that one
hard
person.
not to. But I just tell people when they're shy, just remember that most people want you to win, and that everyone you see out here, even the ones that make it look easy, they still have, some fear and some nervousness.
Now, in your experience and with the clients you have, would you say like more business owners are probably a little more introverted or extroverted?
Man, that's tough. I feel like certain businesses lean certain ways. Man, that's a great question. Because I know some people that it seems like you snap and they on, right? They work the room, they sell, they on TV talking about their business, they're taking over the events. But like when you get to know them, like they really can't wait to get away from all that. You spend time with them alone, they just chilling, So I think it's advantages to both personalities. Sometimes extroverted people can go too far and you don't want to push people, but introverted people sometimes are too quiet. But I think it's just it's a roll of the dice. I say yeah, it's half and half. I've dealt with both. Introverted people can be difficult though, because when we're having a meeting, sometimes we're like both trying to get it out. So like
Yeah.
you hired me, I gotta chill and then let you get it out first.
So I'm an introvert myself. And when you
Okay.
talk about someone like snaps and put it on. So here's why that kind of works. When we know what we're going to talk about, it's easy to do it because we're just focusing on what we're talking about.
Hmm.
It's that random conversation where we're just like, oh God, I gotta get out of here. I mean, we're tired either way, but
Yeah.
it's the random conversation where it's like, okay, so how do I start this conversation? What am I supposed to talk about? And it'll just drive us crazy.
And how do you with the random conversation? So you're like saying we're watching the game and just trying to make small talk. That can be.
That could be a nightmare.
So how do you get around it?
So I tell you, my brain is gonna go like 100 thoughts a minute because, like, okay, what thing I can talk about? What thing I'm gonna try to find something. I bet we watching a basketball game. I'll bring. Usually, sports are a great way to kind of start conversations, especially between men. Like, oh man, that
Yeah.
that was a dumb play, or oh no, that's my favorite play. Oh, I can't stand that guy. Oh, LeBron or Jordan, what do you think? So it's a lot easier. Sports is really easy to kind of navigate those conversations. Just in a restaurant, I may just bring up some random stupid fact. Like I don't know what's going to happen. Usually, I always kind of put myself in a way I either know the environment I'm in,
Yeah.
or so yeah, that's usually what I do. Like whatever I'm going to, if I just got to talk, like, okay, I'm going to this restaurant it's in this part of town. Who's going to be there? What's more than likely why they're there? And I'll usually just have three random things I can just bring up in my head.
Wow. But you know what is weird, or not weird, but it's crazy, is you still are doing what you said. 'Cause you said it's easier when there's a purpose. So you're still making a purpose out of the conversation by coming up
Yes.
with facts or focusing on sports. Like that gives you a comfort level. And once you have a purpose to the conversation, it seems like it becomes easier.
Yeah, I always have to have a purpose. Because if
Yeah.
there's no purpose, there's just I may ask you if you like cheese. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And I have
Yeah.
definitely done that on dates where it just got awkwardly quiet and just throw whatever random thing I could think of. And
Okay.
that usually ends horribly.
Yeah. Well, when you're on dates and that happens, that's a good point. If she can get through that, you're like, oh, okay. One might be all right. Like I asked about cheese and she ran down the history of blue cheese. I'm excited now. She can
It's the thing. It could be exciting. And also, like, I just randomly threw that out there. I didn't really want a conversation out of it.
yeah.
Now I got to try to get it. So it can go horribly. Like usually I'll like with dating apps, it's kind of works for me because I can you kind of give a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
I just use those and then add kind of that's my icebreakers or my conversation starters.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I build from there. But for me, being an introvert, there's always a plan for a conversation. Because
And
if
that makes
not,
sense.
it's going to be awkward for all of us.
And I like when you said, yeah, like I remember when I was single and I was on the dating apps, like it's so difficult for a person if they had no information on there, but if they had some information, that can be helpful to start a conversation.
Yes. Usually if it's some girl with nothing on there but a pretty picture, I'm going to assume she's a bot anyway. So
Yeah,
I'm just going to really
right.
not even my business because I have nothing to go with here.
Yeah, I need something to go. But I think that with business owners, that's how I look at it too. Like, look, your customers are the people you trying to impress. You trying to date them. So get that conversation going. If I walk into a restaurant and the manager or the chef or the owner there, I love to see them walking around talking to tables. Like to me, that can make or break an experience. Hey, I just want to stop by, see how you're doing, but also being aware because some people don't want to talk. They into their steak. But some
Reading the
people
room,
love
yeah.
that. Yeah, you got to read. Damn, that's a good one too. Read the room.
As an introvert, I do that a lot.
You read the room.
Gas to. Because you walk into something you ain't prepared for.
But
Awkward conversation.
as an introvert though, how did you get into audio?
It's funny. A lot of people ask me that because I also do acting. I do everything you wouldn't think an introvert would do. Me introverting is like, okay, with audio, I control the conversation. So once I realized I control the conversation, I control where it goes, what's being talked about, when it begins, when it ends, it just kind of got easy. Now, originally, like I did one podcast with friends, so it just made it because, I messed up all kinds of ways. I realized the more prepared I am for it, the more comfortable I am doing it. Because something like I have notes, I've used maybe 3 questions I've had on these notes. But as long as I have them, I'm comfortable having it because then I'm not like going to my brain like, okay, what do I ask next? What do I do next? So with audio, it works like that. With necessarily working with film and stuff like that, there's a script, there's pages. I'm just going off of that guy. Like there's always some sort of plan or something I'm following. It's just not random.
Yeah.
Now,
That
even
makes
speeches, it's still a little more nerve-wracking because there's people there. But the interesting about it, the more like, especially like bigger artists would probably attest to this. The more people that are there, the less you see them.
Yes. I've done speaking gig. Yeah, a room of like 6 people. I got hired by a nonprofit to talk about branding, and it was only 6 of them.
I'm nervous just as soon as you said 6 people.
Yeah, that was like, I'm just in there like, because then and it's hard to get feedback. Like if you got 6 people just looking at you like, you got 100, somebody gonna raise their hand and ask a question. Yeah. Especially like any questions, and all 6 are like, no, we good. That just hurt my heart. But it's interesting you said that too, because a lot of actors I've noticed, famous ones, some are very extroverted, but some are introverted. But I never thought about, you're right, because the script and the setting, the director, there's a lot of factors there that control it. So all they gotta do is focus on what they say, and they don't gotta focus on those exterior factors.
Yeah, like in film, everything, because there's money involved in it, and they ain't trying to waste that money. So everything, there's a plan and for everything. There's no randomness to it.
Yeah.
That's what I like. Now, the creative side of me may not like it as much, but the introvert in me loves it because there's always structure. There's always, I know what's going to happen. I know what's the plan is. There's nothing just thrown at me my way that I got to figure out. That's usually the director's issue. If it's something weird that happened, you figure that out. I'm gonna just try to memorize these words.
Man. And I guess that's the thing about being a business owner is like you got to be the producer, the director, and the actor. So you
That
gotta
is
all those
draining.
roles. That can be draining. Like being an entrepreneur is draining, and that's why even with the book, that's why I'm saying read the book, get those tips, get yourself some media coverage. Go ahead and be your own publicist, be your own PR rep. But as you grow and the business grows and you can hire someone because let them think about that because you already playing so many roles. You're already in development, sales, customer service. You're doing all those things. So books like this can help you get off that ground floor. But once you do grow, then you want to find someone, let them do that job. It's always better to hire people that are better at things than you are.
Now, would you say like at a growing of a business, you do a little less doing and a lot more decision making?
Yes. Yeah, that's got to be the goal. As you grow, you have to be more about decision and you have to be able to delegate out responsibilities, which is hard, man. I still deal with it and I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. Like, because sometimes you'd be like, by the time I explained it, I could have just did it. But the reality is the explanation may seem like a long time, but as soon as you explain it a few times, they're gonna get it. Let them take over that, have some trust in other people, and then focus on the decision making and the development of taking your business to the next level.
Now, as a social media, as a entrepreneur like yourself, there's a lot of time you may have to deal with social media. Like your business itself can pretty much consume your life. So how do you go about time management, like having time for yourself and time for your business, or knowing when to cut it off?
Oh, I'm gonna tell you the secret to that is just like if you use your iPhone calendar or your Google calendar,
Mm.
and you schedule your meetings and what you have going on, schedule personal time too. Like if you have dinner with your parents this week, put that in your calendar the same way you would a meeting. Um, you want to go see a movie, schedule that because if you schedule and block out time, that time could have been used for anything, but this is what the time is for, and it makes it so much easier because if you and me made plans to go see the new Flash movie, right, and then we're supposed to go Saturday 11 a.m. matinee, but then a client calls me and says, "Hey, can we do a Zoom at 11?" and I didn't put it in my calendar. You call me at 9, like, "Yo, what movie theater we going to?" And I'm like, "Oh man, I forgot. I got a Zoom." You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that time that we chilling in my calendar the same way. And that way I won't run against making plans with my friends and family, and some business thing pops up. Because when you have business, your customer clients, people are gonna act like it's the end of the world. Sometimes it is the end of the world, and sometimes it's not. So you guys also have to be able to like handle their expectations. Like I'm here, I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna make sure your website looks good. I'll make sure your social media is popping. But 11 o'clock on a Friday ain't the time to hit me. I'm out with my peoples. I'm half drunk right now, kicking it. Yo, that's not, you know what I'm saying? You can't expect that of me. So those are the two major things. Schedule out your personal time and also handle the expectations of your work life. And you gotta not be afraid to spend time for you. Because why are we trying to make these brands and blow up if it isn't so we can live a better life and chill?
Now, because the average person wouldn't think that, oh no, let me just schedule some free time for myself.
Yeah.
Like, so at what point did you kind of learn that?
I think I learned that at a time like when maybe like 16, 17, and I really I loved my calendar and I was going so hard off it. But like I said, I would see a blank time. I'm like, oh, I can do that meeting. And then I would miss out on important stuff I already promised, people I care about. So I was like, there's got to be a way to get around this. So, and I'm not saying that I'm not every day like, oh, 3 hours so I can hang out. But I mean, important things, a relative has an event, a birthday party, things of that nature, an important lunch, cousins coming in town, pick them up from the airport, things like that. I started putting in my calendar and it made it easier for me and I stopped letting people down. Because when you're an entrepreneur or creative like you and you're growing a brand, this does become your number one priority. And while everyone is supporting you, eventually they start getting tired of, oh, I got to do another. Oh, I promised my
Yeah.
client. Oh, I'm on another set. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a lot of times if you use your calendar, Or when they call you and ask you to do that thing, you can be honest and look at your phone and say, oh, sorry, I already got a meeting set up that day. It's been going, I had it set for 3 weeks. So you can let them know too. But that way, if I ask you to do something with me and you say yes, when somebody asks you for some business, you can look at your calendar and go, oh, that's already blocked off.
Now, if we wrap everything up, you want to just say like, you have to book out. So what other projects are you working on?
So right now I'm loving this ebook. It's about 35, 40 pages. It's really cool, quick read. But I'm also working on like the next book's gonna be the book, 200-300 pages, something I can do book signings. I'm gonna have it out there. So I got like 2 of them that I've really been working on, and I think that they're gonna be great. Also, me and my girlfriend have been working on a children's book too. So we're kind of excited about that. So just been doing a lot of writing. And the other thing I'm excited about is like the websites that we've been doing lately. I like, there was a moment when I just almost was like, you know what? Just let people use Wix and Squarespace. I was almost just getting tired of doing websites, right?
Yeah.
Now I discovered that the same thing is like you tell stories, like telling brands stories on a website is so cool. And just really like using dope call to actions, like telling people where to go and using buttons rather than like saying learn more, read more, like discover our journey, a button that says that, like, and I know it's still business, but it's just so exciting to me, the future of storytelling with these online tools.
Now, I used to like to end the podcast by asking every person I have on there, why do you love what you do?
Man, that's great. I love what I do. Oh, I need to record this one for TikTok.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, no, I love what I do because I love storytelling. I love people, and I love working with small businesses. I love giving them the same tools and opportunities that their larger counterparts have. I love giving them that opportunity because seeing somebody come up with an idea and then spend time on it and physically make money off it and make a difference. And I know I played a small part of that. I love that feeling so much. So seeing a new brand grow and being able to look at it and say, wow, I helped them because I helped them understand what to do. I built their website. I helped them come up with their first tweet or Instagram post. Whatever it is, I just love that feeling.
I would like to thank Jason for talking to me today, and I would also like to thank you for listening. Till next time, I'm Kevin Mumphrey, and this is Talking Business.